Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Marilyn, and if you're new here, aloha. My leis are getting, or they weren't my leis, they were my daughter's leis. She got married this past weekend, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about, you to share some of the festivities, and part of a Hawaiian wedding are leis. And this one, though it's getting a little bit, a little stale, this is a carnation and orchid lei, and they last longer. But I did want to show you a special lei that we're probably going to have to get rid of by tomorrow. But it's so intricate. And when it was new, it was white. It's turning a little yellow. And it's a ginger lei, and the smell is so wonderful. I just wanted to show you a little bit of how intricate the lei is made and how much work went into it. I mean, there's ribbon, there's little loops, but the smell. This is my favorite lei of all, is the ginger lei. I might as well wear it. Why not? This is a special video for Nonfiction November, and I'm jumping in with 2 feet because I love nonfiction, and it's also special because I'm talking about, except for one, brand new releases. In fact, one of the books that I'm going to talk about is not out yet for a few days, and I'll get to that. But first, a lot of you know that I did some shorts with my daughter, and I went to Barnes & Noble, and I picked up a book that is not a nonfiction book, but it's a fiction. And though I don't like the cover too much, it's a translated Japanese mystery, and it's by Seishi Yokomizo. A classic Japanese murder mystery, and this was recommended by a Barnes & Noble staff, and it's called the Inugami Curse. Okay, that's a good one. But let me tell you, I don't really like this cover, but I'm always there for Japanese fiction and translated fiction, and the bookstore worker told me that this was one of the 2 favorite books that she had. So in 1940s Japan, the wealthy head of the Inugami clan, okay, now we know what Inugami comes from, and his family eagerly await, I got my Barnes & Noble slip in there, the reading of the will. But no sooner are its strange details revealed that a series of bizarre, gruesome murders begins. Detective Kindayashi, good thing that I worked in Japan for 3 years, because I'm hoping I say it right, Kindaishi, I think it's Kindaishi, must unravel the clan's terrible secrets of forbidden liaisons, monstrous cruelty, and hidden identities to find the murderer and lift the curse, wreaking its bloody revenge on the Inugamis. And it sounds a little bit scary, but I'm here for it anyway. I wanted to thank everyone who's been liking the videos that I've been doing with my daughter, who left for Minnesota. She was really happy to be back in Hawaii, because she was brought up here, but she's not been back for almost 20 years. So you can imagine it's been a week of wedding preparation for my other daughter, running around with my eldest daughter, and she told me I had to have blonde hair again, because that's what she was used to. So if you like this color, let me know. My hairdresser wants it more red, but this is my actual natural color. And it always turns back to this eventually. But anyway, let's get on to the nonfiction and the pre-releases. Now, the first book is a pre-release, and I finished it already. So this is sort of a review, though not a full review, because I haven't read any of the other books though I'm in the middle of the second book I'm going to talk about. Now, this book is coming out. Its pre-release date is November 19th. So by the time you read this, it'll be time to order it from your bookstore, because I really enjoyed it and I got a lot out of it. And I was offered this book by the author, who asked the publisher to send me a copy, and I really appreciated that. I don't really get many pre-releases, review copies, and it's not a a book that is not ready yet. It's ready to go, and it's called The Dressmaker's Mirror: Sudden Death, Genetics, and a Jewish Family Secret by Susan Weiss Liebman. And it's a very beautiful cover, and it really tells you a lot, and I'll explain what the pictures mean. But the picture on, I don't know if it's going to be on your right or left, was her sister's daughter who passed away suddenly, and she's had many of her family members pass away without an apparent cause. And it's a very tragic story, but yet it's a very hopeful story, because Susan is a geneticist, and she was at there's a picture of her in the back, if you can see it. And this is not a large book, and yet for the amount of pages, it tells a story of a family from way back in Europe to the United States. And I don't know if anybody knows, but my mother was Jewish, and some of this book takes place in many states, but in Brooklyn, New York, where I'm from. So it was interesting to me on many levels. But if you think that it's not for you, you should think again, because there is a glossary. She's a scientist, and she makes it very easy for us to understand sort of intricate science, because she's a scientist. And I want to show you a few pictures before I go into the book. It starts, the first graphic I want to show you is her family tree. And she goes into her family tree, especially after, even though she was studying genetics, when she was studying, she was one of the first women who went to MIT. So she's a very smart woman, a very smart scientist. And she was studying yeast and how that related to genetics, how they studied before they were able to figure out. Now, I'm not that smart in science, but it's all here. But she was studying yeast, so she was a geneticist. But as time went on, they were able to find the code, the DNA. And when we found the DNA, we learned how genetics works. Well, we didn't know before. And now they're even catching like criminals by genetics. And so part of this book is about science, but it's also a family story. And the dressmaker's widow, the dressmaker's mirror is a sort of, we find out at the end. So it's a little bit of a mystery, but she doesn't, it's not like a mystery book where she keeps you in the dark. She tells you going along what's going to happen, except for the final reveal, which was quite satisfying to me. Now, another book, this is a picture of her mother and her, and that's a beautiful, beautiful picture. And that goes into a little bit of the family dynamics. And she goes into this, I would have liked a little more, because she had a little bit of a difficult relationship with her mother, and I wanted to know more, but then I'm nosy, and I wrote my own memoir where I sort of spilled a lot of family secrets as well. And I would have liked to know more, and that's my only caveat with this book. Otherwise, it's a 5-star read, and that's just my own nosiness. Now, another graphic I've got into this book is in 1964, Science Talent Search finalists on the Capitol building steps. White arrow middle points to me. And she was picked out of so many smart students. And this is just a picture of them. And I don't know exactly how they picked these students, but there wasn't, if you look, there's not many women in this picture. And I hope you can see it. So they're at the Capitol. So she was a very outstanding student. And she had a sister that she was close to. And the sister's daughter is her family member who died in her, in her generation, sort of the baby boomers. And it was fascinating to learn about how we didn't know anything about genetics, really, how things run in one's family. We knew that something was happening if everyone, like in my family, for example, heart disease runs in my family. And this was also a heart issue that ran in her family. That was a defect in a gene of Ashkenazi Jews, of which I am one, on my mother's side anyway. So the intermarrying, or what they called inbreeding, caused, and this was true in generations, caused some problems in some of the DNA. Now, if you think you're not going to understand this, she makes it very easy, because there's a glossary of scientific and medical terms in this book that I found very helpful when it was over my head, because she doesn't let you. There's also a glossary of Jewish terms. And although I was brought up, there's a glossary of scientific and medical terms. There's also a glossary of Jewish words that, so if you don't know anything about Jewish terms, it's also in here. And it's also about Judaism, which I found very interesting as well, but in an inclusive way. So I think that this was a great book. She's also an advocate for genetic testing. And coincidentally, as I told her after I finished this book, my daughter just had genetic testing that she advocates for, and I had to have a cheek swab to see if whatever they find out about her runs in my side of the family, or else it would have to run in her father's side, I assume. So they asked me the question, do you want to know if we find anything out? Do you want to know? And I said, of course. I'm 74 years old, so I sort of know what runs in my family, but not exactly. But my daughter was kind of concerned about a few things, but so far they're not finding out anything that's chromosome related. Now they're looking for the genetic DNA to see what medical things might be going on. So I found it very fascinating, and I think you will too. So this is The Dressmaker's Mirror. And I hope you pick it up at your local bookstore, because I really enjoyed it. Like I said, the only thing I wanted a little more in the memoir part, but you can't do everything in a memoir, and you're not supposed to. If you do too much, it's an autobiography. Anyway, it'll be available soon in your bookstore. And now, you know me, I don't get many new releases for many reasons. And one of them is when I went to Barnes & Noble and I saw books that I wanted, they were like $30 a piece in Hawaii. And I can't afford, especially with weddings, and we were running to go out to eat all week, and just spending money. When you have a wedding, you spend money. Let's put it that way. And of course, my daughter didn't expect me to foot the bill because, she's the one who is working, and she's in her 40s. So, but still, it was, we wanted to help her. So when we went out to restaurants, we picked up bills. We tried our best to help her out. So, to spend to buy 2 books would be like $60, and we rather have spent it on something else. And as much as I love books, I would have loved to see it in print. A lot of the books that I have, I did buy 1 book on audio, and my good friend, a subscriber, Nathan, he's probably, if you're a booktuber, he probably subscribes to you as well, sent me it wasn't working for me on audio. And I found out the reason why, and I'll tell you about it. But the book I'm reading now is also a very new book, and it came out in June 2024. And I'll have a copy of the cover on this side. It's I'm Mostly Here to Enjoy Myself by Glynnis MacNicol. Now, she's a Canadian woman, and this is what I think was part of the reason the audio didn't work for me, because I'm thinking, okay, she's a New York woman, and she lives in New York, and she returns to Paris after the first wave of the COVID pandemic hit. So I have family in New York, or I had family at the time. I still have some family. And the way that the pandemic hit New York was really terrible. I mean, so many people passed away, and there was an isolation there that was felt. The people either left the city or they stayed, and but weren't allowed to really do anything. So she goes to, right after, I think this book, she was talking about 2022. So right when France let the border open, she went back. She goes every year to Paris for, I think it was 10 years. So what is this book about? I'm Only Here to Enjoy Myself. And the subtitle is One Woman's Pursuit of Pleasure in Paris. I liked her a lot. I liked this author. You have to, I think for a memoir, you have to really like the author, and I liked her. But when I listened to it on audio, like I said, I used one of my credits to buy this book. I couldn't get into it. And first I thought it was because I was in my head too much. I wasn't in the story. I was thinking, okay, she sounds like this, but she's a New Yorker, and what was she thinking when she wrote that? I was in my head too much. And then I realized, when I found out she was Canadian, I said, maybe I was expecting a New York accent, and there wasn't a New York accent there. But I got it on Kindle, and I'm loving it. It's a smart book. It's not a huge book as well. It's small. And it talks about, from what I gather at the moment, what do women do when they hit their maybe late 40s? I think she was about 47 when she wrote this book. So the Gen X generation, when you don't go for the children, the husband, the children, and the white picket fence, and then you have to deal with other issues, maybe working hard, as much as you do when you have kids. And I got married really young, and I had my kids young, and there's a different kind of challenges or balance that you have to do when you choose marriage and children over a career. And in my culture at the time, and in the 60s, women were just beginning to go out, as they used to say, I'd go out to work. It wasn't very common, and especially in my culture, because I'm Latina, brought up in a Latina neighborhood, and all my friends were getting married really young, and especially if you were not, as she is, more upper middle class, and she's a writer too, and she came from, I think it was Toronto to New York to make it big in publishing. and she eventually wrote a memoir before this one. I didn't look up the name of her first memoir, but it's sort of about this topic. And I'll have the title down below in the comments, in the description box. But in this book, she decides, right when the border opens in Paris, to go there, because she went there every year except during the pandemic years, and meet up with all the friends she met in Paris and just have a grand old time. And there's a lot of online dating in this book. But if you think it's, what I like about it is she's a smart woman. And not only is she smart, but she brings up a lot of different authors who were making similar decisions, like, am I going to have a room of my own? Though so far she hasn't talked about Virginia Woolf, but she has talked about Joan Didion and Norma Ephron. And I didn't know they were friends, but yeah, it's sort of, there's a little meta in this book, which I really appreciated. And I really appreciated that she's very honest, and she hadn't had anybody touch her, for the pandemic, and or even interact. And she's missing that. So she goes on this weird website. I don't know what I don't even know if that's the real name of the website, Fruitus, where you're looking for a hookup, even though there's different types of fruit. I'm finding it very hilarious. You might not like this sort of stuff, but it's not a gross kind of book. It is intellectual, and I'm enjoying it. I love Paris. I want to go back to Paris, and I like her. So I'm really sorry that the book is 1/3 over already, because I want to see what happens and how she enjoys herself in all the different ways that you can enjoy yourself in Paris without hooking up. I mean, the food, the beauty, and on the cover, and I don't know if I said that, the cover will be here, but there is a picture that's in the Louvre, and I thought that was a good photo. So that's the book that I'm almost finished reading. The next 3 books, one I found on the AARP magazine, and that is, and I'll have the cover here, Dreams, The Many Lives of Fleetwood Mac, hardcover. And they come out in October 2024. I haven't read it yet, but I was sent a copy by Nathan, and I loved, when I was in the 80s and 90s, I loved Stevie Nicks. I wanted to be Stevie Nicks. She danced, she sang, she wrote poetry. She was just, I don't like to say idol, but she was somebody that I really enjoyed her music. The funny part is, when Fleetwood Mac came out at first, I didn't get it at first. I was a little late to the party. Not too late, but let me tell you what it's about. So it's illuminating deep dive into everything Fleetwood Mac. So I guess if you didn't like Fleetwood Mac, this book is not for you. The songs, the rivalries, the successes, and the failures. Dreams evokes the band's entire music catalog, as well as the complex human drama at the heart of the Fleetwood Mac story. And if you know anything about the story, they broke up pretty fast, I think after their second album. And I don't know if I told you, I'll have the cover here. And so it says, Fleetwood Mac has had a groundbreaking career spanning over 50 years. And I just saw Stevie Nicks recently on a show. And she still looks wonderful, and she still sounds good. So includes some of the best-selling albums and greatest hits of the 20th and 21st centuries. But the band's unique story is one of enormous triumph and also deep tragedy. There has never been a band in the history of music riven with as much romantic drama, sexual tension, and incredible highs and lows as Fleetwood Mac. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a show on Broadway that might be called Dreams. I'm not sure. That's based on the Fleetwood Mac story. It's not a a biopic. Is that what they call it? Or it's not. It's based on their life, but another group, made up group. So yeah. So is that the third one? And that one is going to get read after this one. And the reason that I'm talking about this one is because it wasn't a new release, but it was sent to me, and there's no way I'm not going to read it, and I'm going to have it here. It's called Remembering, Scenes from My Complicated Life, June 1st, 2021, from the late and great Sinead O'Connor. And the cover is really gorgeous too, and I keep on pointing here, so just if it'll be there. So from the acclaimed controversial singer-songwriter Sinead O'Connor comes a revelatory memoir of her fraught childhood, musical triumphs, fearless activism, and an enduring power of song. Blessed with a singular voice and a fiery temperament, Sinead O'Connor rose to massive fame in the late 80s and 90s with a string of gold records. By the time she was 20, she was world famous, living a rock star life out loud. From her trademark shaved head to her 92 appearance on Saturday Night Live when she tore up Pope John Paul's II's photograph, Sinead has fascinated and enraged millions. And I saw she passed away in 2023, and her son, she never got over her son's death. So I think that's part of her story, as well as mental illness, which I really want to read about, because that's a subject that I'm very much into reading about and studying about. And Nathan told me that she's brutally honest, and I really, really love that in memoir. When a person just says, I'm going to tell it all, and like it or not, whoever likes it, whoever doesn't, doesn't. And yeah, so those are my 5 Nonfiction November. Now, Nonfiction November, this is the last year of Nonfiction November that was created by Olive at Book Olive, and she says she's not going to do it anymore. I didn't have time. I'm jumping in, like I said, with 2 feet on this, pretty middle of the month. But these are books that I'm going to read. I'm already reading them. A lot of them are light. A lot of them are, I don't usually read celebrity memoirs, but when I saw Dreams, I said I have to read that. So let me know in the comments, are you participating in Nonfiction November? I always do. I read a lot of nonfiction always, but last month in particular. And do you like the leis, even though they're not really fresh? You should have seen this one when it was bright white, and it still smells so beautiful. So I want to wish everyone a happy, happy week. Weekend is coming up, and wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying life. I know it's fall, and a lot of people love fall, but in Hawaii, it's summer all the time. Well, we do have a rainy season coming up, but there's always flowers and beauty. And when my daughter was here, she saw school is out, so they are filming at my beach. I'll try to have some pictures of my beach, which is Pokai Bay, or in Hawaiian, Pokai Bay. And they were filming the live action Moana film, and there was nobody there, and my daughter saw a turtle just passing by, because when there are no kids or families, like on the weekends, and the beach is empty, that's when they're filming, and that's when the turtles come out to greet you. So I told my partner, I'm going to the beach before the Thanksgiving holiday begins, so I can see a turtle too. Hawaii is so beautiful. I hope everyone gets a chance in their lifetime to travel. And one thing I really appreciated in one of the books that I read, the one I'm reading right now, which is I'm here to enjoy myself. I'm mostly here to enjoy myself. She was talking about being a writer and not having a lot of money, but that one day she wanted to write she kids around with her friends, and friends are so important in women friendships and in men friendships as well. And she said she wants to, they kid around about writing a book, how to live like a millionaire or something without any money. And that has been my motto for my whole life, is that you can't have everything, but you can have some things. You can pick and choose what you want. Do you want a truck, or do you want to fix your kids' teeth? Do you want to travel, or do you want to have a beautiful wardrobe? There's always choices to be made, and there's always ways, maybe not always, but there maybe almost always a way to get what you want. I remember I wanted my daughter to travel, and we didn't have money for that. No way. But there are programs, and all of my children went on programs. Even my youngest daughter went on the JET program to Japan, and then there was American Field Service, and my oldest daughter, who's in her 50s right now, went to England, and she also went to Italy when she was 15 for a summer with another program, and then she went and she worked in England for a whole year. So there are ways of doing things that you want to do, and yeah, and I want to go to Paris, and I want to still travel while I can, because to be honest, and I'm not talking about age now, but during this week I realized that yeah, I have chronic pain issues, and we were running around and walking up hills, and there was some times that I had to opt out, like on the day they went and saw the turtle. So I have to pick and choose. It's a balancing act when you have any kind of chronic illness, and I want to be able to do things while I'm able to do it, not in the way I did it when I was young, when I just traipsed off to Spain and decided to become a flamenco dancer, which didn't happen, which couldn't have happened, but I did have a lot of adventures that I think that we didn't have any iPhones then. I had a little dusty camera, and I took a few pictures, but mainly I was there in the moment, and I had adventures, and it was safer than it is now for a single woman to travel. And I have to say, I was just watching a YouTube video that was talking about the dangers of women that are traveling alone, and how on Instagram and on TikTok they tell you, they're encouraging women to travel alone to maybe dangerous places, and maybe that might not be such a wonderful idea about how you travel. Maybe you should bring someone with you. Maybe you should, maybe that's not a very modern thought, but as a mother, and I wouldn't want my child to travel to certain countries where bad things can happen. Of course, bad things can happen anywhere, but yeah. So I don't know how I got on this subject. Travel, because I want to travel, and I can't travel alone anymore like I used to when I was 23, but I can still travel. I can still do something of what makes me happy. And sometimes what makes me happy is just reading about other people traveling. So anyway, I'm just going on and on at this point. But please, if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and a like, thumbs up and a comment down below, and tell me what you think. And until then, I wish you all aloha.